Welcome. I'm Monickie Scott.
And this is your girl, Felina B. Flossin, and we are so excited to have you join us as we support and encourage women in 5 areas. That's the mind, body, and soul, while laughing and loving. And today we have a special guest for our 5-star spotlight.
Yes, joining us is the unstoppable boss lady herself, Miss Borah Fortune Stott. She is the founder of Girlfriends Creating Wealth. She's also a successful author, content creator, transformation expert, speaker, podcast host, producer, and trainer. And guess what? After years of soul searching and becoming the version of herself that others wanted her to be, she has finally found her passion of changing lives from the stage and as the co-host of the podcast, Powerhouse Experts. Welcome to the show, Borah.
Thank you so much, ladies. I greatly appreciate you having me today.
Yes.
Such a pleasure. So in a moment, we're going to talk about your journey and how you got to be where you are today. But we're going to handle a little 5-star business, okay?
Okay.
So when you hear the words 5-star living, what does that mean to you?
5-star living to me means living your absolute best self. And I think Monickie said just a few minutes ago, I was living a version of what everyone else wanted me to be until I figured out what I needed me to be. And to me, that's where you're living in your 5-star, that you're living that 5-star lifestyle. You're living your best life, what good or bad to anyone else, but it's what you need it to be.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Indeed. And how do you find balance in your life?
I think balance is a farce, to be honest with you. I think that balance is a farce. And the reason that I say that is as we get further in and I talk more about the unstoppable factor, you'll understand why balance is a farce, because we're always seeking something that rarely happens when instead, I think it would be more productive for us to take the stance that balance doesn't exist.
Ooh.
There are cycles of balance. But balance within itself is a farce. I think that for any of us, especially if we're on a continual journey, if we're growing, if we're building, we're not going to have balance. We're just going to have momentary balance. We're going to have periods where things are flowing. But if they keep flowing, then guess what? That we're not growing. So balance is a farce and not something that I really ever seek.
I love that perspective because it's true. There's always some type of shift. It's not always just...
Right, because as soon as you think about it, as soon as you make a goal, when you hit that goal, what do? You set another goal.
Yes, you do.
So now you have balance based upon what you just achieved, but you're looking for the next thing. So guess what? Balance is lost again when we get on that next journey. So it's a perpetual cycle. It's a journey. So the idea of that balance is not something that I ever really seek. I seek moments of it. And those are what I call my little mental vacations. But then I have to get back on the road.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for giving us that perspective and giving our listeners a little insight on how you're living a more 5-star life. Now, let's talk a little bit about your journey. Who is Borah? Beyond all those titles I just gave, like how would your family and closest friends describe you?
Well, Borah is kind of... she's out of the box. You know, on stage, I'm very professional. I am an introvert. My personality, I'm very introverted. I'll keep to myself. I can leave on Friday, finish out my week, and Monday morning, you'll say, how was your weekend? And I'll say, it was amazing. It was great. What did you do? I was at home. I went home on Friday and I said, and I did some work. And I watched some TV and I did some brainstorming and I listened to maybe some music or I did some YouTubing. And that's a phenomenal week to me. So I'm a bit of an introvert. Yeah, exactly. Which most people would not expect that from me.
Very surprising.
Yeah, very surprising. But I am an absolute introvert, but I have a really silly side. And that, Monickie, that I have a really, really silly side. And a lot of people don't know that either. So I think my family would say, my mother always identifies me as my silly daughter. And I'm really driven. I'm driven to not only help myself, but to help others. But I think the best way that I can help others is with my own journey. So I believe in being truly transparent and sharing some things that a lot of people wouldn't share about their lives, and just helping people to build based upon the journey that I've had, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Yes, because it's all in there for sure.
And it's all relative, yes.
So reading your bio, I would say statistically, you're not supposed to be where you are in life, right? You were
I'm not
dyslexic, a solid D student with a temper and a terrible attitude that got you expelled, not just from the school, but from the entire school district. You were in high school. Despite all that, Deborah, you've been able to rise above and help build multiple 7-figure brands for clients and yourself. What was it that allowed you to turn those lemons into lemonade?
I think, and as you'll read in my bio, it says, I wasn't smart enough to realize that I wasn't supposed to be able to do those things based upon the previous things. So a lot of us, we run into this cycle where we're looking at things and we're saying, well, she's smarter or he's smarter, and I can't do that because I don't have that educational level, and I can't do it because of this or that, or whatever the number of things that we have. But the reality is sometimes the fact that you're not smarter, that you're not over analyzing, that you don't run into that, what is it, paralysis by analysis, you don't run into that cycle. So for me, I never stopped to think enough that I wasn't supposed to do it until I was already in it. And then when I looked back, I realized, oh, I'm not supposed to be here. Oh, they just made space for me because I bogarted my way in. So, exactly. But I wasn't supposed to be here based upon everything that's happened. But I decided once I realized that I wasn't supposed to be there, that it was where I was going to stay.
Awesome.
Big ups to you.
I like Felicia. Yay.
Thank you. So you also mentioned in your bio that you finally found your passion. That's a big word, your passion. Tell us about that.
Well, like I said, because I am an introvert, my passion, I didn't think that I would find it on stage, teaching and training, because for most people, they'd rather run into a burning building than to get on stage and present, especially at the level. Yeah, there you go, Monickie, right? At the level that I teach and train at. You know, I teach 7- and 8-figure business owners quite often. I do corporate speaking. So quite often, these are the individuals that are considered the elite, the best of the best. My podcast, Powerhouse Experts, we focus on experts. So with that, you wouldn't have thought that that would have been the basis. And surprisingly, the first time I was put on stage was by an ex of mine who's one of the top real estate leaders in the country. And he threw me on stage and said, today we're going to have Miss Stott do the recap. And I was like, we're going to, what?
Hey, shout out to the positive X's.
there you go, to the positive X's, right. And so that was not a pleasant rest of our trip, I can tell you. But that was the first time that he threw me on stage. The second time he threw me on stage was, again, not giving me warning. We just got to the thing and he said, hey, we're going to put you on stage.
Nice.
And I realized that this is an adrenaline high. This is an empowering state. And if you notice sometimes, like on Facebook, if I'm doing an event, if I'm doing a shoot, if I'm doing something, you'll always hear me putting lights, camera, action. Because at that point, Deborah changes into Fortune. That's the point. Deborah changes. Yeah.
Love that.
And so, kind of like Beyonce, she has Sasha Fierce.
Fierce, right? She becomes Sasha Fierce. So Deborah becomes Fortune. So when I become Fortune, I'm on stage and I'm doing my thing and I'm bringing the best of me. You know, I prayed before I get on stage. I prepared before I get on stage. But that was the place that I realized I enjoy this high. I enjoy what I'm doing for people, and I see the end results. That was powerful. And then from there, I went on to podcasting. And again, it was another situation where my podcast host called one day and he said, hey, I've had these stupid people in the office told me that I shouldn't do a podcast without you. They're stupid. And I said, well, well, why did they tell you that? They said, because I wouldn't be funny without you. And I said, they're right. You won't. And so he said, are you interested? And true story. I said, yeah, I'm interested. Of course, you know how I roll.
Yeah.
And I got off the phone and I started doing my happy dance and I was dancing around and I stopped midstream and I said, what's a podcast? What's the podcast? I said, oh, well, I'll figure it out. I'll ask Mr. Google. And I started dancing again. And that's how I found my passion. It wasn't this amazing light bulb moment where the skies opened up and God spoke to me. It was just by chance I was thrown into, or I was put into positions. And you know, the old saying is, it's better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. So it just so happens that I was prepared for both of these and just didn't know it.
That's a great slogan. Can you say that again for our audience?
It is better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. Because the universe likes speed. Sometimes we have to go, and for speed is relative for each of us, but you have to be prepared and ready, knowing and believing that certain things are coming your way. For example, in the speaking business, I would go to these $1 million trainings for real estate experts, and the other wives would travel with their mates as well. Every one of the other wives would shop. They would go to the spa. They would spend their time doing, you know, in the room, ordering movies, things like that. I was the only significant other or wife that came to every training, that participated, that helped. And by the time he threw me on stage, he knew that I had been taking so much in. I could have a conversation with them. So I put myself in a position to be prepared, even though at that point, I had no idea that an opportunity was ever going to come my way to speak.
Nice.
Nugget.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yes.
You helped somebody who was listening, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. Keep listening, ladies. Keep listening. Yeah. Be prepared.
Yeah. So you're the founder of Girlfriends Creating Wealth.
I am.
Okay, I'm a fan. Tell me more.
Okay, so Girlfriends Created Wealth started several years ago, and it was my brainchild, my brainchild, my love child, if you will, behind me wanting to help women to empower themselves financially. And for me, I am an unapologetic capitalist. And let me clarify that before someone says, I'm out.
Right.
To me, the best thing in the world is a capitalist with a conscience or a socialist that understands the value of money. See, none of this works without money, none of it. So for me, I wanted to start to have conversations about money. Well, along the road, the journey got diverted. And what ended up happening is I would put posts and things about money or share something about financial empowerment. And I would always get pushback from women that would say, you know, it's not always about money. Money is not that important. Well, ladies, at the time I accepted it. I no longer accept that. Money is valuable. It's up there with oxygen. And here's and here's the thing. It's about what you do with the money. People say money is the root of all evil. It's not money is the root of all evil, because the Bible doesn't contradict itself. Because in one place it says, I would that you be abundant and prosper. So you can't be abundant and prosper and then have money be evil. Those two are contradictive. It's about what you do with the money. It's that love that you have for money that's above any and everything else that makes morality, that evades you. So you have to be moral about your money, but take the money and use it for a cause. Take the money to use it to send your kids, to send someone else's kids.
Yes.
Take the money to treat yourself. Ladies, we have to treat ourselves. It's important. Self-care is so important and so underrated with women. Yeah. So for me, all of those things, they came together. And initially, like I said, I let other factors control the journey of Girlfriends Creating Wealth. So now Girlfriends Creating Wealth is the free platform that we provide information. And over the last 2 years, it got a little light because I had a medical incident. I was diagnosed with lupus. So things got a little light. But now we're going back in, and I want to always keep Girlfriends Creating Wealth as that foundational piece when you're starting off, when you need to get there. Say you just need a little motivation, you need a community of strong-minded women with you. That's that community. but we're still going to have little conversations and nuggets about money. But then if you want to go to the next level, then you go to the unstoppable factor. And that's where the unstoppable boss ladies are. And that's where we're going to talk about, we're going to have hardcore conversations about money. We're going to talk about your journey, whether it's your job, whether it's your relationship, no matter what it is in your life, to make big changes that amount to big rewards in your life.
Wow.
Yes.
Powerful.
And
Thank you.
that is, and you said Girlfriends Creating Wealth. And where do they find that at?
At girlfriendscreatingwealth.com or on Facebook. I think LinkedIn, they have us on Twitter. So anywhere, Girlfriends Creating Wealth is basically the site, but you can find us in the community on Facebook.
Okay.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. And I'm actually joining forces with another lady to kind of run that community, because a lot of mine is going towards the other division, and that is a paid division. Like I said, I believe in transparency, but that's only when you're ready to go to the next level, because I'm going to push and I'm going to prod and I'm going to poke you, and my team is going to poke you, and you're either going to like me, love me, but you're going to grow, or you're going to say I'm out.
There you go.
Nice.
That's what it's about, growth, right?
That's exactly what it's about. It's about growth. And here's one of the things is, along the way, I've given the impression to women, and on everything that I'm speaking on, because I've done a lot of interviews lately, thanks to wonderful people like the both of you. But one of the things that I've done in the past is I've given the impression that it's not okay to be an entrepreneur, it's not okay to have a job, that everyone should be an entrepreneur. And I'm clarifying that, because if that's the impression that I ever gave anyone, that is not what the unstoppable factor is about. It is about you creating and finding that space. And that space may be your job. That space may be an at-home mom. That space may be taking care of your elderly parents. It's whatever it is, or being with your kids. That space is about you being the best you that you can be. And when the torpedoes come, because the torpedoes are coming. Yeah. And it's like, damn the torpedoes, because they're coming.
Yeah.
But when they come, for you to be equipped with the things that you need to take you to the next level.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say have been some of your biggest challenges or obstacles on your road to this success, or this finding your passion?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges, ironically, was awareness. When I became aware that I wasn't supposed to be where I had gotten to, that was one of the first things. From there, it was things like when the market crashed. When the market crashed, that took the very breath out of me, because though we always say you shouldn't be identified by your job and all the titles and things like that, the reality is I was in the top 1 percentile. I was featured on television, on radio, on news, I was all over the country. I was speaking to qualified investors, which meant you had to have over $1 million net worth, and you had to have access to 6 figures. So in order to speak to them, you had to meet those qualifications as well. So I was meeting these qualifications, and then the rug was pulled out from under me. So when the rug was pulled out from under me, I went into this deep spiral, this depression. And it's taken me years to get out of that depression, that really dark place. And I don't know why it was so difficult, but it was a really difficult time for me, because even when I was starting up, when I started my entrepreneur's journey, I started as a loan officer. And for 8 months, I didn't sell a thing. I couldn't sell a loan to save my life. I couldn't save a loan. However, that didn't take me out. I just rode with it. But for some reason, when I lost my houses, when I lost my businesses, the identity that I had created for myself, everything just went from me. And I sat on a sofa. And fortunately, I had a wonderful man that supported me and let me sit on his sofa and watch Jerry Springer and eat bonbons. So nice. that was one of the things. And then as I started to build, I got up and I decided to rebuild myself. And I got to a place, and I was at Yoka Local with 2 amazing gentlemen, and I decided to go off on my own. And they've always supported me, Daryl and Stormy. And as I went off on my own, I was diagnosed with lupus. Well, before being diagnosed with lupus, I was sick for a 1.5 years, and the doctors, nobody could figure out. I don't know why they didn't test for that. It seems so prevalent now. but for some reason the doctors weren't testing me for lupus and they couldn't figure out what it was. So there were times when I was laid up for 2-3 weeks at a time. My mom would have to cook, breakfast and dinner. My dad would bring it over. That's a terrible place to be in. And then I have clients that are wondering what's happening with the work that you're doing. They're expecting certain things. I didn't have a job. Everything was my business. So I literally canceled out all of my clients and started from scratch. And at that point, it was fortunately, I have an amazing side of my family that's affluent, that decided to help, an aunt and uncle and a cousin and things. And my parents, my brother, my significant other, all of them that helped so that I could stay. But at one point, I was just about to turn 50 and I was looking at moving back into my mom and dad's house because that's how bad things had gotten. So those are the things that kind of put me on this journey. I started to document how and look at how I was looking at everything that was happening, how I was getting out of each situation. And most important, that it was one situation after another situation after another. So that's what took me past that, as I said in the beginning, past that balance. That the balance was a farce was because it was a perpetual cycle. And for some reason, I don't know if it's grace of God or whatever it is, but I continually was able to get past each of those cycles, each of the tests, and come out shining again. And so it just kind of led me to the next step and the next step. But those are all the things. And as you know, recently, Monickie, I got a phone call one day and I have a 2-month-old baby here.
Right.
I didn't have any kids.
Right.
So, but all that's done. And you know what? And I thought that it would be the biggest distraction. But what it's really done is allowed me to get really laser focused, because I know for me, I'm not the child person. So I have to have a nanny. So I have to get laser focused that says, if I'm supposed to be, and I pray to Lord, if I'm supposed to be the one that's supposed to do this, there's certain things that have to be in place, and they say, if you tell the Lord your plans, and that's the biggest joke,
Right.
But I don't believe that there would have been more put on me than I could handle. And for me, I never gave birth to children because that wasn't something that was ever a priority for me. And I know a lot of women are going, oh, she said that. Yes, I said that. I believe in transparency. I'm not the mothering type. But at the same time, it's a family member that my mother needs me to take care of. So those are different things. Like I said, the challenges, they keep coming. But you know what? At this point, I'm like, bring them.
That's right. You are knocking them down and keeping them going.
That's right. You better come better than that. You want to lay me out. Come on now. Come on now. You know my past.
I got a lot of mo.
That's right. That's right.
Who off the top of your head is someone that you would give credit for who helped make a huge difference in your life?
I think, I mentioned my mom and dad, my aunt and uncle, my cousin, my brother, the individuals that were there when I was at my absolute lowest. And some of the two that I didn't mention was my dear friend, Tony Morgan. When I was going through this terrible time and I was in New Jersey and I was sitting in this big comfy chair watching Jerry Springer, I disconnected my phone because I didn't want anyone to contact me. And I told my mother, don't give it to anyone, no one. Well, of course, my mother ran into Tony in the store. And she gave Tony the number. And I said, Mama, I told you not to give anyone the number. She said, but you know how Tony is. You can't tell her no.
Right.
So she gave Tony the number. She called me several times and I was like, I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want to talk to anyone. She kept calling. I picked up the phone and she says, look, I realize where you're at. She said, I've had some challenges that you don't know. She said, but this is not who we are and we can't stay here. It was that friend that thought so much of me. She said, we can't stay here. You can't stay here. You've got to pull out. Here's what I need you to do. This is what I'm doing. I need you to go to the store and pick up this movie. And the movie that she told me to pick up, it was called The Secret.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, The Secret. Okay. And for days I didn't go get it. And the other person is the amazing man, John, who's in my life still. We broke up for a period of time and then our roads led back together.
Sweet.
But so he was there at the time and we were out at the store and he said, well, let's get this book. And mind you, I had lost everything. I had went from bawling out of control from the mountaintop to the valley down into the alley. Okay. I was way down. I was like, well, I don't want to spend money on that. But the movie was like $30 some. I said, what happened to $9 movies? This was a $30 movie. So
right.
Exactly. Right. So he said, no, we're getting this movie. And so for the next 45 days, every single day, I sat there, and sometime between Jerry Springer and Steve Wilcox, all of those different things, I watched The Secret. And then after about a week or so, he started watching The Secret with me. And so we started watching The Secret daily. And it was the first thing that started to get me after over a year of just being in this depression that was just overwhelming. It was one of the first things. I know a lot of people say, well, the secret is this and the secret is that. The secret is what you make of it and what you take from it. And what I took from it was enough to get me off of the sofa, to get me to turn off, something that was just burning my brain cells. Jerry Springer, it was just killing my brain cells. I could hear him dying daily. But it allowed me to get out of that place and to start being productive and to realize the space, and to what my dear friend Tony had said, this is not where you're supposed to be. That's right. This is not. And the other two people were Daryl and Stormy. Daryl and Stormy played a significant role because they believed in me when I was rebuilding. I'm a 40-some-year-old learning social media, and they needed someone to start their social media department at Yokel, and they entrusted that in me. And here's the funny thing. I need to share this for individuals to really think about this is when I started, Daryl said, well, we'll let you know when we're ready. Stormy said, we don't have it in the budget. I said, but are you going to let me do it? He says, yeah. I said, then I'm going to start doing it. Stormy and Daryl said, we don't have it in the budget. I said, I don't care. I'm going to start doing it. So I started putting together what I was learning as a social media manager. And one day, about 2 months later, now this is 2 months, I haven't received a dime. 2 months later, I walk into the office and I said, whose desk is this? And Stormy said, well, I guess you're going to ruin my day and make it yours. Right. That's our dynamic. So I took that first desk and I sat there and I did all kinds of work around the office. And at the time, I was driving at a wedding chapel because I was like, I just wanted something that was a no-brainer. Yeah. And I was driving to keep the bills paid at a wedding chapel. And 4 months in, Stormy is passing out checks, and he comes and he throws a check at my desk. Now it hits now there's a lesson there too. It hits the desk and falls on the floor. And I said, pick it up. And he's like, I'm not going to pick it up. You pick it up. I said, either if I pick it up, then I'm going to come up swinging. So I told it. So he says, well, I'll pick it up, but I'm going to keep it. So he picked it up and gave it to me. It was my first check. That, I think it was at the time we were getting paid weekly. That $250 you would have thought was $250,000 because it was the first time after 4 months that I was being paid. And they gave me that opportunity. And ever since then to this day, they've been some of my biggest supporters.
Wow, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Very, very sweet.
Yeah, and there's probably others, but if I forgot y'all, please forgive me.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. Blame it on my head and on my heart.
Right. There you go. I'm going to use that.
Right.
What else do you want to share before we end this wonderful interview with you? What did we forget to ask?
I think I want to talk a little bit about the unstoppable factor before we close. Okay. And that is getting yourself to that place where things are going to happen, accept that they're going to happen, and figure out the game plan. So the unstoppable factor is three basic keys to it. It's the mindset, it is the game plan, and then it's the execution of the mindset and the game plan that you put together. And for most people, we run into this place where we get into what we call our comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So your story is your comfort zone as well. Just like, say, if you're an emotional eater, things happen, you go and you grab Ben and Jerry, my new boyfriends, and you sit down and you start to go into your comfort zone. I know, you notice I said Ben and Jerry, right? So you go into that comfort zone. Your story is the same thing as your comfort zone. Your story is designed to be used to help others. It's not the place for you to go and reside in. Don't take up residence there. Do not start to live in the place of the story that you have. Your story is simply that it is something, and it's the tool that you need to use to get to the next level. It's the tool that's going to help you become unstoppable. Don't be upset when you go through those changes, because we're going to go through those changes, whether it's death. And Monickie, you were there when I received a phone call that one of my best friends, he had just expired. Yeah. And I was at the office, and I went there because I didn't want to be alone. I knew that phone call was coming. Yeah. And from there, I had to realize I knew it was coming. So I had to figure out everything I could to adjust, to deal with it. It's not an easy process, but remember that we have those things. The torpedoes are going to come, and figure out how to deal with them. And the best way to deal with them is the mindset and the game plan. And the game plan comes by having daily rituals. What are you doing daily to keep you in a positive state?
Yes.
If you start your day off the right way, then guess what? There is no way for your day to be ruined. Mm-hmm. There's no way. And if it does get ruined in the middle of the day, go back to what you did in the morning.
That's right.
so that's just a little, exactly right. So that's just a little bit. Go into the place that I'm calling the unstoppable factor. Okay. And you'll see more of that coming out, but go to that place and remember, it's mindset, game plan, and execution.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful.
Deborah, and tell our listeners how to find you online.
You can find me at girlfriendscreatingwealth.com. Mm-hmm. You can also find me on our podcast, the Powerhouse Experts, where we have lots of fun with some of the top subject matter leaders from around the globe. And it's a lot of fun. It's edutainment. So it's educational entertainment. So you can definitely find me on any platform or Facebook under Powerhouse Experts and the Unstoppable Boss Lady.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Deborah, thank you so much. We want to thank you for listening to us and joining us on the 5-Star Living Show. We believe in you, and we believe that you will have a 5-star day starting right now.
Right now. We know that you could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be right here with us. And so for that, we thank you. And we look forward to seeing you on Facebook at the 5-Star Living Show and joining the 5-Star Living Show Inner Circle Accountability Group, because we want you to laugh more and love more while taking care of your mind, body, and soul.